I'm going to present a technical report which is informed by information that we collect on a daily basis. We do this religiously, gather and tally the numbers in the morning at 9 o'clock and in the afternoon at 4 o'clock. As the CEO of the NECT reminded us a few days ago that the state of readiness is a relative notion, is not an absolute notion. So we have decided to inform the state of readiness by 14 variables that we look at to bring us close to absolute notion of the state of readiness. Let me start by saying, because Minister was told that people are looking for numbers, from the readiness of facilities, we have the following figures. In terms of the Eastern Cape, out of 5,064 schools, 4,660 were declared ready from a facility's point of view. Free State, out of 1,123, 1,123 were declared ready. Gauteng, out of 1,917, in fact, sorry, out of 2,017, 1,917 are ready. In other words, out of 2017, Gauteng has got 1,017 ready. KwaZulu-Natal, out of 6,000 schools on our count, 5,975 were declared ready. Limpopo, out of 3,711, 3,711 were declared ready. Mpumalanga, out of 1,815, 1,772 were deemed to be ready. Northern Cape, the province with the biggest pieces of land, out of 556, 556 were declared ready to go. Northwest, out of 1,570, 1,570 were declared ready. West Cape, Western Cape, out of 1,819, 1,816 were declared ready as facilities. All in all, out of 23,675, 23,100 schools were declared ready as facilities to receive learners on Monday. This constitutes 97.6% of the total number of public schools. I'm quickly going to go through the presentation that I'm going to share this afternoon. This is the outline of the presentation, and this is how we provide guidance in the interpretation of the figures and the colors that we have provided on the dashboard. From a national picture, as at the 29th of May, which the minister referred to, this was the status of readiness, which informed the decision by the minister and the Council of Education Ministers to use the week that has just gone past to mop up and to ramp up the provision of outstanding deliverables in the system. You can see that under facilities, there are a number of rates. Under water and sanitation, you've got red. Under basic sanitation and hygiene package, lots of red. Under orientation also, a number of provinces were really not ready. Well, as at yesterday, this is the picture. No red, as you can see, nationally. A few amber or colors that are amber. And as you would remember that lots of activity is taking place as we speak. These numbers change like, a laser jet speed. They change very fast. There's delivery happening as we speak. Delivery happens even overnight in some areas. That's why we tally them 9 o'clock in the morning. We even tally them 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So that is the national picture. Provincial picture, Eastern Cape. We will appreciate that Eastern Cape has the biggest portion of the lion's share in terms of the water tank delivered to them. The only thing that remained was the installation of these tanks. That's why in some of the areas, because our assessment is about the provision of water, not about whether the tank is on site. That is the assessment that we are making. The second point is around the provision of masks in the Eastern Cape, particularly in OR Tambo, in Alfred Nzo, and some areas of the Amatole region, and so on, where the delivery slowed down because of community protest, which was precipitated by local business people who wanted the delivery of COVID essentials to be done by them. And it delayed the delivery in these areas, and it brought the performance of the Eastern Cape as a whole down compared to all the 9 provinces. So you'll appreciate that when we compare the Eastern Cape with other provinces, the provision of COVID essentials in the Eastern Cape to schools is the lowest, simply because of some of those community protests. We also experienced that to some extent in Gauteng, but law enforcement agents were able to intervene on time, and therefore Gauteng was able to catch up with the rest. Free State, you can see, is green all the way. The blue color simply means that some of those activities are still to be carried out in terms of the other groups of learners that are coming. Let me also remind the South African public that we are only receiving 13.4% of the total number of learners. Total number of learners is 13,100,000. So we're only receiving 1,600,000 learners from Monday, which is 13.4%. Gauteng, you can see Gauteng also, as I said, it's green all the way, and the numbers are provided there for each of the deliverables broken down into granular detail of what we expected to be delivered by each of the provinces. KwaZulu-Natal, as indicated in the overall picture of the numbers, there are schools in KZN that are still outstanding, and I think the minister spoke to that. MECs will also speak to that as to how do we bring some of the schools that are still lagging behind in terms of state of readiness on board, and to make sure that learners attending in those schools are not left behind. Water, again, in KZN, although we've got quite a number of water tanks, in KZN, what still remains is the issue of installation also in KZN. In Limpopo also a few areas that are amber, particularly water, and mainly about installation. But in Limpopo, they have all the water tanks that they require. In fact, at some stage, we gathered that they had more than what they required. We needed to redirect them to other provinces. Sanitation, we're also moving with sanitation. And again, there are still some schools that still need to be covered in Limpopo. Orientation, some schools didn't complete their orientation this past week, so they'll still have to do that. But in the main, green, as you can see. Mpumalanga, the main issue is water installation there, but essentially they've got the tanks that they need. Northern Cape, the only area that still needs attention to catch up with the rest of the other provinces is orientation, which has not been completed in the Northern Cape. In Northwest, essentially green, a few areas, and again, it's about vandalized schools in the Northwest, getting all the vandalized schools repaired, water, finalizing installation there, and in terms of orientation, finalizing orientation and as well as screening. Western Cape, essentially green except for small areas in terms of the repairs of schools, and I think some of the schools that require repairs in the Western Cape are not more than 10. We're getting this data every day. We meet 6 o'clock in the morning to evaluate the situation. That's what accounts for yellow in the Western Cape, vandalized schools, which is an occurrence of all the 9 provinces. Quickly, this is the delivery of the phase 1 project of emergency sanitation. There are areas that the Department of Basic Education is responsible for, which are in red. The ones in blue, it's provincial education departments that are providing sanitation, minimum sanitation for 13.4% of learners will be received by schools tomorrow. I want that to be understood. The number of units that we are providing are commensurate to the number of learners that will be receiving tomorrow. We'll continue with phase 2 in anticipation of the 52% that is coming on the 6th of July, and then also in anticipation of the last group that's coming on the 3rd of August. And this is the breakdown. The minister's speech acknowledged DBSA. We brought in DBSA, we brought in Vula Trust to enhance our capacity to deliver on emergency sanitation. This is the breakdown. As you can see, the total number and the allocation per implementing agent. And these are the main areas where we're delivering Eastern Cape, and we break down the numbers there as indicated from the total number and breaking it down to per implementing agent. And this is Limpopo. We give a geo-location of each of the schools that require emergency potable sanitation. And this is the breakdown in terms of the numbers, and many of these are still en route to the schools in Limpopo. In conclusion, this is the breakdown of the timelines of the number of units that will be taking to the schools that are involved in this project. Thank you very much.